CFIQ 640 Toronto. 640 Toronto. A Corus Entertainment radio station. Broadcasting on the radio and everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Great afternoon for Talk Radio. All right, we've got a winter squall that's supposed to descend around, well, maybe north of the GTA, but we're not going to be totally immune. Up to 50 centimeters being called for in the lee of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron. So you want to brace yourself for that. It starts tonight or into tomorrow morning and continues till tomorrow night. Just thought I'd give you that heads up. As we're talking with our friend Joe Warmington, columnist with the Toronto Sun, friend of the Oakley Show, we go back a long way. And Joe, to a certain extent, you know where the bodies are buried or how they got buried. In fact, you just invoked the name of one of our erstwhile colleagues, Mike Stafford. Now, interestingly enough, you know, he had made a reference, I guess this was considered to be a perceived attempt at a joke, in reference to Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who's going to join us shortly at the bottom of the hour. But you know what? Mike had said this in an internal meeting. It was a screen grab that was taken by the program director of all people, and he fed it to the media. I mean, this is what we went through in kind of that George Floyd panic area and cancel culture. You know, the people were being torpedoed. I mean, I certainly felt the indignity of it as well. You know, I guess got by relatively unscathed. Mike had to walk the plank. I mean, did you have any of that going on at the Sun?
I don't know about at the Sun, but I certainly covered a lot of it. I mean, Don Cherry comes to mind. I don't think I did enough to help Mike, and I feel bad about it. But you can only take on so many battles like this. There's, you know, we're fighting for people all the time. But you know, it is a thing about this business that it's not the same as working in a school or working in the government. It has to have a bit of a, you know, a creative flair to it, and it's a very hard thing to do. And, you know, I learned just doing radio because I did a thing called the late shift over at 1010, kind of where you were when I first started listening to you with that late night thing. I just did it once a week, and it took everything out of me to do it. Like, I mean, it was like that, just the 2-hour show every week, and I realized right there by doing that how hard it was. And I did that for 4 years, and so. You know, I think that some of the managers and different things, vice presidents and all of that, they're good at some things. I mean, they're certainly important, but I think they need to sit in and do more than one show. Do it for a while. Do 5 a week. Or do it 3-4 hours a day for whatever. It takes everything out of you. And so you're going to make a mistake. You're going to say something dumb in an external meeting or internal meeting, whatever you want to call it. I think you've got to have some grace for people. And you know, I see this all the time. I mean, there's so much leniency for all kinds of people. I'm writing a column right now about a guy that's on the subway or on the GO train. He's been arrested by Halton Regional Police, and he's been, you know, 4 different breaches. Well, what a surprise. On, you know, the 5th time there's now sexual assault charges and things like that. It's all kinds of breaks for people, but not for media people for, you know, very questionable reasons to fire them. In Michael's case, that should never have happened. He's part of the family. And, you know, again, we can't fix it. It was the era. And in Don Cherry's case, I mean, I go out and see Don, and I've written about it a lot of different times. I try to do the videos with him just to keep him kind of like, he enjoys it too. You know, he's going to be 92.
Sure.
What the hell did we do that for?
Well, listen, that was a time.
Why did this country take somebody like that and say, go to hell, you're out?
It was a CDC. Come on, Joe, you know the answer to that. By the way, on the Stafford thing.
They made millions off the guy, right?
Yeah, but the Stafford thing, okay, we don't know that it was the program director per se. That's the report or the rumor, but we'll leave it up in the air because I guess it'll be one of those great unsolved mysteries. However, you know, to the point you're making, you know, with Don Cherry having to walk the plank because Wow, in hindsight, I'm sort of saying, geez, that seems like with a little bit of grace, it could have been forgiven because I think his heart was in the right place. That's your and my take. But I remember that time, and this was where it's somewhat dispiriting, and I'll tell you straight up, we had a CEO who sent out across the network memo declaring his white privilege. I mean, seriously, I'm looking at that, I'm going, are you kidding me? If you feel that strongly about it, just stand down. But I mean, this is what we were going through, and it became a case that anybody, the back channeling is one of those things that I don't lament leaving when you've got people who are just, fresh out of J school or, Seneca, and they're going up to human resources complaining about a topic you did that doesn't fit with their sensibility or their own worldview. I mean, what are we operating in? We're supposed to be fearless where they got our back. And it might have changed now, but it certainly wasn't that way during the heady days, as I call it, the George Floyd panic cancel culture, and right on into the COVID epidemic.
Well, a lot of that, too, is the Rob Ford era, which we, hopefully have time to talk about Rob a little bit. But he fits into this, too. I mean, they went after him so hard. And they didn't have to go after him. I mean, he did nothing. He was just a human being, and they, exaggerated it. They put the full weight to go after this guy, and I realized that. And that's why I stuck up for him. I reported everything, as did you on the show. If he said something stupid or wrong, we would say it, and we didn't like it. But at the same time, we didn't really think that it was necessary to have the entire police force following around in helicopters and stuff like this. And so that was a really, that the G20 and different things. So I think what happens is power gets in the middle of things. And, you mentioned that about the media. When the media is connected to a political party, doesn't matter which one, and if there's money coming from the government, which is where it's at now to survive, you're going to have this kind of stuff because, it needs to be independent, fiercely independent. And it was for most of our careers. It's different now, but we are independent.
Well, you know what? I mean, it has to do with partisan people in charge.
You're right.
And so, that might explain why for years you were considered persona non grata on this program and this station.
It's funny because, I don't know, can I say this time, I guess, is it okay? We can just go out and tell the time that they kind of tried to use me to get to you. Can we do that story?
You got to be fast. I got Doug Ford waiting in the wings.
One time I came in to do your show, and they were coming for you in the mornings. And they had, I think you only once had a co-host the whole time. That was me. I don't remember anybody else. And they asked me to stay in there with you for the full morning show. And I realized in the middle of it what they were doing. They were trying to get under your skin. You realized it, but you didn't say anything because you're so classy. And I remember telling you, don't worry, I won't come back. This is the one time. But they were trying to get under your skin at that time. I don't know who it was or what it was, but it really, really irked me the wrong way. I didn't like it. Look, I'm a huge fan of you, Johnny. You're a big part of my life, my career. I'm a listener. I'm going to really miss it. I mean, every day I listen and have, ever since before I met you, when I first came onto this Toronto Sun, you were really important at that time. Now, just before we go, the Rob Ford, I would never have heard of Rob Ford. I heard of him the first time on your show. And I didn't know where that would lead me, but I did a lot of stories on him, and we had a lot of, there was ups and downs, obviously, with Rob, but there was so many great scoops when I interviewed him in the rehab or the time they tried to, to get him when he had his shirt off, and, we got the exclusive of him in the pool and, this kind of stuff. And that all emanated from your, what you did by having him on the show. And there's never been anybody like that on council, and it's important to have those voices that say, wait a minute to the mayor, you're off base, and here's, and have someone to write it and talk about it on the radio and all that. And you did that. And that's a big contribution that you did, amongst many other things. So, I don't know how much time we've got.
We've got no time, Joe. You've said enough. It's punctuating the point with
tomorrow,
praise.
In the Toronto Sun tomorrow, there's a story that's going to be in the hard copy paper, and you can also read the story that I did on TorontoSun.com. Anybody listening, it's on there. Hopefully we got a little bit of, it's such a big career, John. It's hard to get it all in one column, but we did our best.
Well, I'm understanding that it was really a corker, and I appreciate it, Joe. I didn't have to do it, but I appreciate it nonetheless. You stay well in the interim. I'm sure we'll cross paths again.
There's a bidding war. By the way, there's a bidding war for you. You don't know that yet.
All right.
I'm getting all kinds of calls saying, hey, do you think you'll come work with us? You're not going to be retired long. You're not fooling me.
All right, Joe.
We'll be talking to you soon. All the best.
You see, that's how good a reporter is. He's already sniffed things out. Joe Warmington from The Sun in a moment. Doug Ford, and how Doug actually got into politics. An interesting story that dials into this program. Moments away on the Oakley Show, 640 Toronto.
Here's Rob Ford, he's on Oakley today.
They call me Bull the Johnny Shop, but it's some four-letter words.
Here's Rob Ford, he's got something to say.
He's a typical pig at the trough. He's useless. What has he done?
Has a take on all the issues, big or small.
I've done in my ward than any councillor ever has. I do my homework.
Rob Ford tells you what is wrong with City Hall.
I'm telling you now, I wouldn't trust one of these councillors with fires I could throw.
Rob Ford tells you what is wrong with City Hall.
There you go, bringing back some memories for sure. For us, we played it yesterday along with a clip of Rob spilling the beans, the dirt on City Council, and it was really refreshing to hear because it looks like those days are gone. But somebody who understands how it all played out, his brother, who's now the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. Doug, I appreciate you joining us on the second last day of my tenure here after 46 years, Doug.
God bless you, Johnny, and thank you. And you know something? It just warmed my heart hearing that, and I miss Rob so much. I can't even begin to tell you, but he was the one who really launched my career, and I always go to root cause. And, you know, if it wasn't for Rob going on your show, and thank you for giving him the pedestal to hop on every Thursday morning and you know, tell the people what's going on at City Hall. He called me up one day. I was in our Chicago office, and he said, Doug, I'm running for mayor. I almost hit a telephone pole. He goes, and I need you to come home and run for my spot at City Council. And then from there, we went forward, and I was fortunate enough to become premier. But it all go to root cause. It's because of you, Johnny. Rob became mayor, and I became premier.
Well, that's it. You know, when he announced you were in Chicago, you didn't come into our studio at 1 Dundas West, did you? Because I know Randy came in, I guess Diane, your mom came in. You weren't there, though.
Actually, I couldn't hold me out because I remember everyone marching down the street with those Ford signs, signs, and he came in, and away he went. So that was interesting times, and I'll tell you, I know it's impossible. If Rob ever came back to Earth, he'd wipe the floor in the next election with every candidate there was, because there has to be accountability now. And I'll never forget, Johnny, we went into the office. I was fortunate enough to get elected. Rob got elected, and the city manager said, we're facing $774 million of pressure, and we have to raise taxes 15%. And Rob and I looked at each other and said, we aren't raising taxes. Not only did we deliver a 0% tax increase, and then next year, just a 1%, the lowest of any large city in North America, we saved $1 billion. And I remember the Toronto Star saying, no, you didn't. You saved $860 million. And I remember saying, yeah, coming from the Toronto Star, I'll take the $860 million, even though it was $1 billion. And Mike Delgrand, actually, the budget chief, did a great job as well. So, you know, government doesn't have a income problem. They have a spending problem. And just listening to Rob's voice there, I thought, oh, my goodness, we need someone like Rob back there. And I don't, honestly, I don't think there's anyone in the city that would do the same as what he did.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. He was an outlier. He was sort of special or unique in that regard, and he didn't care whose name he named. We played the clip yesterday. You know, he was running down the whole heaps. He was going through Adam Vaughn and Sandra Busson and, you know, renting bunny suits for some kind of festivity.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, okay. So he would always come in with, you know, these kinds of frivolities. And I think a lot of people finally started to figure it out that, yeah, he's representing on our interests, because I don't even see it today. You know, there must be a lot of waste in the system and the expenses. I mean, they had a $53,000 expense allowance for each counselor back in the day, and Robbie was saying that's way too excessive. You remember those days?
Yeah, oh yeah, and they used to have big buffet lunches behind council. He got rid of all that. He got rid of the expenses, and it's all about customer service to Rob. And I'll never forget, after he got elected, a few big executives wanted to meet Rob. Well, Rob's not into the big executives and the mucky-mucks, but I said, Rob, let's go meet him. And I won't name the person, but there is a CEO of one of the largest banks in the country, and he said, Rob, I used to get my driver to pick me up an hour earlier just until I get here on 640 with John Oakley. And so we leave the meeting, and Rob says, yeah, I like that banker guy. So I called the guy up, and I said, you're the banker guy. But I guess my point is, Rob cared more about the person on the street or little Miss Jones on a pothole that you show up to their door, their light bulb was out, more than the CEO of one of the largest banks in the country. He took care of the people, and it was all about the people for him.
Yeah, we saw that with Toronto Community Housing as well. Doug Ford with us, Premier of Ontario, as we're going down memory lane, the Oakley Show. We're in the last stages of this juggernaut after 46 years, but that was one of the highlights for me, the Rob Ford appearances on Thursday morning. But early days, Doug, confirm or deny, Rob was getting almost depressed because they just arrayed against him. Everybody was just chipping away, the media, other colleagues on council. Didn't he phone you in Chicago and tell you how the situation was really leaving him, in a disconsolate kind of a mood, and he wanted you to come and help stand beside him at City Council?
That's true. And I remember Mike Delgrand called me, and I didn't know Mike Delgrand from a hole in the ground. He was the budget chief, after Rob got elected. And he brought me to a Swiss chalet with Rob, and he said, if you don't come down there, they're going to eat him alive. And the ironic thing is, as all the other councillors, the vote was always 44-1, and Rob was the only one vote there. But the people connected with him, and he had a mission to go in there and stop the gravy train, respect the taxpayers, and that was a slogan, and he stuck with it. And I find it amazing that 1 out of 2 people voted for Rob in that election. And I remember Smitherman ran, and all the Conservatives, the PC, and all the elites supported Smitherman, and Rob beat him by, I think it was 100 and some odd thousand votes. So it goes back to focus on your constituents. I tell my team that. Forget all the la-di-da and all this stuff down at Queen's Park or City Hall or whatever. Focus on your constituents. And Rob would give his phone number out, 233-6934. I remember like yesterday. And people would call him. And then I took that up. I did that now. And it's like drinking from a fire hose, Johnny. I'm getting 1,000, I'm not exaggerating, 1,000 to 1,200 messages a day. I'm behind 5,200. Now keep in mind that was a helpline. Now probably half of those are protesters or far left radicals that want to just harass me, but that's fine. But that number's out there to help people. And I helped thousands, and I learned that from Rob. If it wasn't for Rob, and I remember his first, before podcast days or anything, he put this video together, and he had all these expenses, these cards, and he had a pair of scissors, and he chopped up, here's the free TTC card, here's the free golf card, golf pass, here's the free exhibition pass, and he kept chopping them all up, and that was it. Then they wanted to have a vote that Rob only spent $1 a year, and they wanted to have a new rule that he went in front of the integrity commissioner because he wasn't spending enough taxpayers' money. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is such a winner for Rob, because he just didn't believe in wasting taxpayers' money.
Yeah, it resonated, and as we look back, we're with Doug Ford, the Premier, his late brother Rob, the Mayor. Nothing brought it home as sharply as the funeral itself. Marching from Nathan Phillips Square to St. James Church, right there at Church and King Street. I mean, and every demographic in the city was represented.
100%, Johnny. That's what stood out, and Rob was very popular in the ethnic communities, New Canadians, because where they came from, they weren't used to picking up the phone and calling the mayor of the largest city in Canada, getting a call back, and Rob would show up to their door. But I remember a group from the black community singing as we're marching down the street, and Rob loved the black community, and they loved him, but Rob loved every community. And then that's just the way he was. It wasn't about the mucky mucks, it was about the common folks that never had the opportunity, if they had a problem, to try to get from someone in government. So that was Rob's specialty.
Well, I knew too, for friends who were working, trying to get a parking pass in the beach on a house they were renovating, that wasn't Rob's riding or ward, but he went down there and he facilitated it and got it for them. He went across town, and
then they banned him, Johnny. What happened in council? No one wanted him to go into the ridings, but he went in there anyways, and they made some new law up that you can't go into someone else's riding. Well, if these counselors would do their job and return phone calls, you wouldn't have that problem. But none of the counselors were doing that. So Rob would show up there anyways and help out every single person you could possibly think of.
Yeah, I'm going to hang on to you for a few minutes yet, Doug.
Sure.
I want to come back and, pivot towards things that you might have learned from Rob. By way of example, you sort of referenced something a little earlier, because he was arguably one of the best retail politicians you or I have ever seen.
Ever in the country, bar none.
All right,
bar
we'll come
none.
back. Let's pick up on that as a talking
Thanks,
point
Johnny.
with the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, reminiscing here on the Oakley Show, 640 Toronto.
The John Oakley Show on 640 Toronto.
We got the news coming up in 13 minutes' time. Big weather watch. The warning is because the squalls are coming off the lees of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron, so certainly up in the snow belt. Places like, Barrie, Orillia are going to get dusted up, maybe as high as 50 centimeters. You want to be forewarned about all of that. Right now, we're still with the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, reminiscing. This is my second last day, but there was an important chapter in my years here at 640 Toronto, back in about 2004 or 5, up until he became mayor in 2010. Rob Ford was a fixture on this program, and we loved him because he was an iconoclast. He actually would say things, name names when it came to the spendthrift people on council that had a $53,000 expense account, a slush fund he called it, and he would just rip into them mercilessly. So let's pick it up on that point, Doug, because, they went after him for these kinds of things. I mean, when everybody, he has no allies or very few, Mike Delgrand, and when you got there, you for sure. But do you think that this kind of drove him off the rails? I mean, I don't want to relitigate, how it became a tragedy near the end, but do you think that played a large role?
Well, I'm not too sure. Rob had some stress. He went to get support, he got it, and unfortunately got hit with cancer, and that was devastating. I went through him like grease lightning, and he just told me, please take care of my kids, and I've always taken care of his kids. I talk to Stephanie and Dougie almost every single day. They're good kids, and they're doing really, really well.
Yeah, I was going to ask. They've got to be in their teens, late teens now, no?
Yes, Stephanie's at York University, and Dougie just graduated, so he's doing well as well, and they're just two great kids, and I always have fond memories of their dad, even though they were pretty young at the time.
Doug, I mean, when you take an example like what Rob was subjected to, I mean, does that fortify you against the assaults on positions that you stake out? I mean, developing a thicker skin?
You do. You end up having a skin like an alligator, and it just runs off your back. And that was the same with Rob. They were absolutely relentless. The media showing up to the house and showing up here and showing up there, and they were just on to him like no other politician in the country. But he kept saying, "Don't worry about them. Let's move the ball down the field a yard at a time." And that's what we did, and we did very well for the city. And the spending ever since new mayors came in, the spending went through the roof. The development charges went through the roof. Spending, and we're giving the city of Toronto billions and billions of dollars. We never got a penny from the province back then, and we just found efficiencies. And he went line item by line item because he knew that place. He knew where every body was buried. He knew where all the waste was. And he just unleashed myself and Mike Delgrand, and literally, when I say line item by line item, we went line item by line item. But it was very important that Rob felt that everyone needed to keep their job, and he did. And the only way people left is through attrition. After they retired, he just wouldn't fill that spot if it wasn't necessary. But I can assure you, Johnny, there is endless waste. And anyone who says there isn't waste in government isn't telling you the truth. And you just have to find efficiencies and drive them forward.
That applies at the province as well as the municipal level.
100%. That's why in close to 7 years, I've never raised a tax. You think of any government They can't say they've never raised tax. I will never raise a tax. Government doesn't have an income problem; they have a spending problem. And we've seen $70 billion of investment come into Ontario just over the last 6-7 years, and our GDP went from $800 billion up to $1.21 trillion. Because we've seen investors come from all over the world because we have a pro-business government. And there's 1 million more people working today than there was when I came into office 2018. And we've seen the province grow by 2 million people. And we're pouring money into infrastructure. That's what we need to do because it was forgotten for many, many years.
All right, so if we take that argument, if you had the magic wand, could wave it and, really maybe clarify some things right now. I know you've been on about the Eglinton Crosstown, the LRT.
That was a disaster. I remember sitting in the office signing a deal. I can't remember. I think it was McGinty. I think it was McGinty with Bob. And that thing's been a disaster ever since it started. There was 240 non-conformances from the companies that built it. Metrolink, in my opinion, we could have done a better job, but I inherited a mess. But I take responsibility, and finally, hopefully, we'll get this thing open by the end of the year. But the good news is the projects that we did start, Eglinton West, is ahead of schedule, 4 to 6 weeks on budget. We're doing the Scarborough line, we're doing Young Extension, we're doing the Ontario line, we're doing the Hazel McKellian line, we're doing the LRT out in Hamilton. We're doing the largest subway project in North America, and we're pouring about $220 billion into infrastructure, from hospitals to schools, everything that people need, roads and highways. So that's what you have to do, is focus on the infrastructure and be a visionary for, not just tomorrow, but 15, 20, 30 years down the road, 50 years down the road.
Well, this Ring of Fire, you had an announcement today, the First Nation that was brought in, $40 million. Well, yeah, how soon are we going to see that one come to fruition so that we can draw from that and, maybe it's going to be a boon to the economy of the province?
Yeah, that was a historic signing today, and we had Arrowland First Nation sign, then we had Webequay, then we had Martin Falls, and we're going to start getting shovels in the ground to start building the road to prosperity, as we call it, but access road for all 3 First Nations. There'll be equity partnerships, but people don't realize, Johnny, these poor people are stuck in the middle of nowhere, living on diesel. They don't get proper food. They don't get proper health care. This is going to change their lives, and they'll have equity partnerships, but that's going to create 70,000 jobs and $22 billion just in the first couple of years. So you'll see that road starting in the spring. I know they're doing preliminary work right now in Arrowland First Nations to get the road going. So things are finally moving.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. It wasn't necessary to get really granular on all of these different things, proposals and policies and so on and so forth. Really just wanted to reminisce about the heady days when your brother was a fixture on this program, and that was instrumental in getting you into politics. And here we are. You're now the Premier of Ontario, 3rd time around, and maybe indefinitely the way the landscape looks. But, Doug, I really appreciate you being a part of it.
Johnny, I want to thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for you, Rob wouldn't be there. And I'll tell you, you've been an absolute champion for the people of Ontario. Everyone loves you. And I know you may get a little bored sitting around. So I have to fill 3,200 appointments every year. So, Johnny, we may be calling on you to fill one of those appointments.
All right. Well, by the way, I got to ask, because this was sent to me. Drake wore a Don Bosco Eagles Letterman jacket with Rob Ford stitched on it, a tribute to Rob. How'd that make you feel?
I'm proud. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I'll tell you, if you decided to do a clothing line, I think you'd sell thousands of those jackets and put all the money to charity. That would make Rob as happy as punch. But it was a very proud moment. Very proud. They've met each other numerous times when Rob was alive, and he met all sorts of different people. But Rob was just a common person, like the common Joe, if I can say it that way. And that's why people loved him. And he was honest as the day is long. Oh, my goodness, was he honest.
I'm going to let you go, but I got Tom waiting in the wings. You want to give a shout-out to Tom at Tom's Place in Kensington Market?
Tom, you're an absolute champion. I've seen him a few times over the last few weeks. You want a quality suit, you go to Tom's, and I get my seats there, but I'm going to pay Tom a visit before Christmas to get some fresh suits. So, Tommy, I'm coming by to pay you a visit.
All right, we'll take that to the bank. Doug, I appreciate the time you've given us. All the best to you.
And thank you so much. And God bless you, Johnny. You're a champion. Thank you.
Doug Ford, again, the Premier of Ontario, weighing in and reminiscing. That's what this is all. The last 2 days. Now, what are we down to, Downey? You're doing the calculus here. I got 3 hours, 4 hours.
You got 4 hours and 2 minutes.
Well, there you go. Let's make full value of the 2 minutes in a moment on the Oakley Show, 640 Toronto.